Hello and welcome back to the show. We are doing another review after Everton drew to Aston Villa in what was a game where tensions flared at Goodison Park. There was, a fair bit of heat simmering for the majority of the game, and then all of a sudden at the 65th minute, tensions really started to heat up, and the crowd got involved, the players got involved, yellow cards were being given left, right, and center. So we're going to discuss all that today. But yeah, it's good to have Premier League football back, by the way, because we had a little bit of a hiatus there for quite some time. So first and foremost, I want to talk about my player of the match. There were a couple of really good standouts for the team today because I think for the most part, it was a pretty well executed game plan. We did lack some attacking edge, but I do think overall the team were pretty good in what they needed to do and what you would generally ask for when trying to execute the Dyche game plan. Mikolenko was really up there. The thing that really glares or stands out to me is the challenge where he put his body on the line in about the 80th minute, where Villa had nearly a sitter waiting for them, but Mikolenko was there to get in the way and prevent what probably was going to be a certain goal. So he's definitely up there because not too much got by him. But my player of the game today is going to be Amadou Onana. In previous games, or every so often, there is a game you get with Amadou where he just doesn't exist. You actually forget he's actually playing. And, that's pretty surprising and should never happen for a player who's playing in the heart of the pitch, the core. Obviously that's the engine room, so you need your players in midfield to constantly keep that engine working. But there's games where he goes missing. Today was not one of those days, or this game wasn't one of those days. He was superb, very immense, was getting back and helping the team out, was helping us, sort of try bring the ball forward, and he was trying to make things happen, even though there wasn't that connection with the front line. That was the case for many players who played today. But he just had a little bit of something extra about him. He wasn't scared to slide in as well and execute that sliding tackle, which is a great asset of his. And I think he really helped employ the press well from minute one. When we employed that press early on, Amadou Onana was very clearly setting the tone in that respect. There was one where he pressured Villa on the edge of their defensive box, and they had to pass it back to the keeper, and Amadou Onana slid in and, really made Emi Martinez earn the football. So, you know what? I think that really helped us out in that respect. You need your players in midfield. The players who are getting the ball the most, they need to set the precedent for the rest of the team and keep, the team ticking. And I think Amadou Onana did a really good job of that today. The energy was great. He looked like a rejuvenated player. Now, we know all too well that he probably goes in and out of these really good spurts, but we need to see that play today much more consistently. One of the big talking points out of today's game, of course, is the DCL miss. Now, this is a sign of a player who is devoid of confidence right now, because I can probably name no other striker that misses a one-on-one like that, apart from maybe a third stringer on Sheffield United. It's really gotten to that point where DCL doesn't know how to score. And I don't think, if he's confident, he is absolutely nailing that to the left or right of Emi Martinez. He just hit it straight at him on the ground. That is all the attributes of a bad shot when you're one-on-one. He really should have just been able to find the correct angle. Instead, he just ran straight at him and sort of made the angle to get the ball past Emi Martinez a little bit more tougher. And look, does it warrant a start for Beto? Potentially, but that being said, I don't know if that is a better option, because I think DCL does a lot more things better. Do I think Beto is actually able to dribble the ball all the way to where DCL got to that position before he let the shot fly? Potentially not. Maybe Beto would have gotten his feet mixed up or something along those lines. I'm not too sure. But the only way DCL is going to get out of the rut is by doing what got him into the rut in the first place, and that is playing regular, consistent football. So I think the way out for DCL is just continuing to play and try players trade, and hopefully things turn around at some point. There's going to be a moment where DCL finally gets the run of the grain. It doesn't help we don't get penalties. That would have been a great way to see the ball in the back of the net. But look, I have full faith he's going to turn it around. It was a delicious through ball by Dan Juma, who wasn't awful today, but it did feel like he was 50 to 75% of the way there with his shots. He was getting in some good positions. It's just that the ball was not connecting with the foot. So, on a better day, things may have looked a lot different, but equally on a different day, things could have looked a lot more different negatively. So we'll talk about that now. And what I mean by that is, this could have been a far different result. It very much had all the attributes of a typical Everton match where we miss simple chances. Granted, we only had 2 shots on target and they were both within 10 seconds of happening. And we know all too well that when we don't capitalize, usually the opposition will make us pay. That offside call did go our way, but it did feel later in the game when Villa seemed to have a little bit more threat about them. They were getting into much deeper parts of the pitch and more vulnerable spots closer to goal. We looked like we were very much on the back foot and very prone to conceding. Villa had scored 7 goals in the final minute plus stoppage time, which I would say is probably the most of any side in the Premier League. So I think we did well to quell the influence at the back end of the game. I think the heat, the constant commotion really helped. We really got into their heads. They were giving away some really unnecessary fouls. There was one where they would have had a corner, but Ollie Watkins just threw James Tarkowski to the ground. And, those sort of things really indicate that I think we had the game on our terms mentally, even though the visual product wasn't necessarily saying the same thing. And I think James Tarkowski did a great job of, leading the charge in that sense. Obviously not the captain with Seamus Coleman playing today, but he was really showing those captain-like characteristics. He was really embodying that leader sort of trait when, his players were willing to die for him. When James Tarkowski was getting into it right in front of the corner flag, there were a number of players that got across, tried to break things up and stick up for their man, because look, that whole debacle at the corner flag was rubbish. I mean, how does James Tarkowski get a yellow card for applying a legal tackle, right? And then apparently being pinged for an aggressive attitude? I mean, if you're not playing football with aggression and you're not having a little bit of killer instinct about you and you're willing to die for the shirt, then what is football? What is sport? If you're not willing to put your body on the line, it really had one of those sort of old-fashioned type feels about it, even though I'm not really accustomed to that sort of football. There was a lot of stoppages, a lot of really bone-crunching tackles. Players needed stitching up every 5 minutes, like Mikolenko had a bandage around his head. Tarkowski had, gotten stitches or gotten a couple of cuts cleaned up. Players were down constantly. It really had that feel to it. So I think to give Tarkowski a yellow card for that shit is just rubbish, and it just talks about that agenda once more, that it feels like we're facing a anti-Everton agenda, and it feels like it's us against the world, but we're here for it. We've been a team that's rallied in times of struggle, and with all this external noise around the FFP nonsense and the point deductions, we've remained very focused on the task. And I think I've got to give Sean Dyche and the players a lot of credit for really keeping that noise outside of the closed doors, and not letting those potential external struggles or hindrances, ensuring that they don't breach those closed doors. So I've got to give them credit, and I think that's why we're playing some really admirable football right now, and we don't look phased. We look very united as a football club. Um, Things will only get tougher from here, though, because as we've seen, things are not easy in the Premier League. We've done things the hard way and gotten away with some good results. I think this was a step in the right direction because Villa are a very good side. They're not a good away side, but they are a very good side, and irrespective of whether they're playing home or away, they are going to be a formidable outfit. So I think to hold them to a clean sheet, and clean sheets are very few and far between with them, I think we've got to give the team huge props. That's going to do it for me. I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure to drop a like on it and subscribe if you are new. We'll be back for the next Everton match review. Thank you yet again. Stay safe. We'll chat to you soon. Bye for now.